Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be a champion guide for the clan boss beast, Vizier Ovelis. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so Vizier is a Force Affinity legendary for the Dark Elves, and he scales with the attack main stat. Now remember, as always, for my champion guides, I will have an infographic down in a pinned comment that will show the masteries of the champion that you are using, that I am using in this video, and also some of the general information like 12 books, the grades, the optimal sets, and all that type of stuff in one nice place. Now remember, as always, masteries can differ based on how you are using the champion, but I always have a section where I talk about the masteries, and Vizier is one where there are a couple different ways to do the masteries, so I will let you know all about that later on in the video when we go over masteries. But let's get that infographic put away and let's dive into the stats and the kit here. So, okay, base HP of 16,350, a little bit on the low side for somebody that you're trying to basically just keep alive. The base attack of 1476 is pretty good. He is an attack champion, but you're typically building him a little bit more in the toughness route and just trying to keep him alive long enough to sustain in a clan boss fight. But once you've got the debuffs extended on a clan boss, and I'll talk about all this when we give examples, it's not really that big of a deal, honestly, if he dies or not. Once he's done his job and extended everything to the max, you're not really losing out a whole lot other than his Giant Slayer procs off of his A1. So not that big of a deal, but the base HP is a little bit low. The base defense is over 1,000. It's not super low. It's not like 850, but it's not high. Base speed of 101 is pretty good, and then he gets that small bump up to 63, a little bit higher than the default on the crit damage. The 0 base accuracy is rough because he is a champion that does need good accuracy, and the 40 resist is decently stable, but I do wish he had like a 10 or a 20 for the base accuracy. And then diving into the kit here, Vizier is super famous for his A1, this Accursed Blades. Attacks one enemy 3 times, each hit with a 35% chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs by 1 turn. That does not apply to CC debuffs. That's not going to do the provokes, stuns, freezes. This is only for the poison, HP burn, defense break, the debuffs, not the actual control stuff like stun. And books are extremely impactful on this ability. Starts at a 35% chance. You can book it up to a 50% chance by getting the 5 and the 10% on the buff chance. So books are very good on this A1. The A2 is going to be Master of Mystery. Attack one enemy 2 times, each hit with a 50% chance of placing a block buffs, decrease attack, and a heal reduction, the big versions of those, for 2 turns. And you can get that booked all the way up to a 75% chance. It's a multi-hitter, so it'd be pretty reliable debuffing there on a single target. The 4-turn cooldown is a little bit rough, and there is no book to get that to 3. Then we've got the A3, Vizier of Poisons. Attack one enemy, apply a debuff spread effect, taking 2 random debuffs from the target and placing it in all enemies. Unfortunately, this ability is basically a waste in the clan boss, and he will still do it on the clan boss, so that's unfortunate. This is more of like a dungeons or arena type ability, but you're not going to use him a ton there, so this ability is a little bit wonky in how it performs, and isn't going to really get a whole lot of value most of the time. Places a perfect veil buff on the champion for 3 turns if the target is under 2 or more debuffs. Then we've got the passive, place a perfect veil buff on this champion for 2 turns at the start of each round. And then we've got the aura is ally attack in dungeons by 34%. Now, Vizier was kind of released to the game right when they were announcing the veil and perfect veil buffs being added to the game. So he has some built-in mechanics here for veil, but it ends up not really being a big part of his value. It's not super intense or anything. It's kind of a nice little sub effect that does benefit him a little bit, but it's not something you're really gonna like be working a ton around or doing like arena synergy teams. You're mainly just seeing him used in a clan boss scenario because of his A1. And before we head on over to the Vizier that I have built and we dive into the gearing and showing him in action, all that type of stuff, there's a couple things to talk about. So Vizier is definitely most optimal in the clan boss. If you look at the infographic, that's why he is an A+ up there in the top right in clan boss and kind of meh everywhere else. So the optimal route is usually use him in the clan boss and just spam the A1. Don't do anything else. Just bring the right team that synergizes around him, which I will walk you through, and then just spam his A1. When you put him on auto, he starts doing these weird abilities, and he starts placing heal reduction and block buffs, which you can get some value out of block buffs sometimes, but the heal reduction you definitely do not want. So it's unfortunate that he brings that as part of the kit. I wonder if they were trying to make him viable in the Fire Knight, which heal reduction can be good in the Fire Knight because he's got a triple hit A1. He's Force Affinity, which is fine on stage 20, and then he's got heal reduction here with decreased attack and that type of stuff. So it ends up being a bad thing that he's not really just designed to be able to lock these abilities out and then put him on auto and just let him spam the A1. So you're going to want to be manualing him, especially against the Spirit Affinity clan boss when he's going to be hitting weak. He won't extend the duration of debuffs, so it's a lot tougher to keep the debuffs permanent and alive against the Spirit clan boss. You can still do it if he's booked and you get like Sniper on him for the Mastery. He can still do it all right, but he's definitely going to be worst against the Spirit Affinity, but he'll do great against Void, Force, and Magic, and be extending a ton of those debuffs and cranking out tons of damage for your clan boss team if you build the right team to place the right debuffs on the clan boss, get all of your bases covered, and then just let him go hard in the paint, extending everything. But now here is the Vizier that I have built on my account that I use for Ultra Clan Boss. I will pull up these stats in case you are curious about these stats if you want to compare to yours. 48,000 something HP, 3,300 attack, 2,100 defense, 205 speed. The main thing is just getting the speed to synergize with your team and being a decent rotation. And then the crit rate, decently high, because that's not a bad idea to get crit rate on him, because he does have that triple hit A1. If you spam that and get a bunch of crits, it can help out your damage a little bit. But crit rate, not a super necessity on Vizier, but it does help your overall damage if you're able to keep him alive long enough. Then the resistance of 140 and the 275 accuracy. If you're going to be using him in Ultra, you'd like to get him up there 250, 260, something like that in terms of accuracy. You don't need to get like 350 accuracy or anything. Somewhere between 240 and 280 should be just fine for him on that. So in terms of my build here, it's not perfect. Some opportunities here to improve it would be to scale up the toughness a little bit. I would like to get that HP up around 55 or 60k and at least get the defense up to like 2,500. I think he would live a lot longer then and be a little bit more stable and consistent, but this is totally fine and it's ultra viable all day. So then in terms of the gear, the banner is almost always going to be accuracy unless you've got an insane great haul and lots of accuracy substats, because like I said, you want to get there 240, 250 if you're going to be using him in Ultra, and then you just scale it down from there depending on the difficulty that you are in. I've got a chart on the website that shows you the different accuracies for each different dungeon in the game and clan boss and all that. Then for the amulet, I like... It doesn't really matter. You're going to want to get basically whatever your chest isn't. You're going to want to get the opposite. You're going to want to, like if you have an HP chest, like I have right here, I've got an HP chest, so I'm going to go a defense amulet. Get a nice blend of both stats just to get consistent value on your toughness. The ring, stat stick of just getting lots of defense and HP and some attack doesn't hurt. It's going to help him hit a little bit harder. The boots don't necessarily always need to be speed, because especially if you're running a counterattack or even a double counterattack team, he's going to get a lot of those A1s off. You can have him go towards the back end of your clan boss rotation, and you can let them all place their abilities and then let him extend it. So given that, if you've got good HP percent or defense percent boots that have a speed substat on them and you can fit him into your roster like that, totally fine to not go speed, because you're not really going to use him in the arena or anything, so you can actually go some stat boots on him. The chest, HP percent or defense percent most of the time. The gloves, crit rate if you're worried about keeping him alive to crank out deeps with those crits, not a necessity. You could argue that it would be better to go defense percent or HP percent. The top ones are pretty self-explanatory. You're looking for speed, accuracy, defense, and HP most of the time, but here are the ones that I am using in case you are curious. And then for the booking process, okay, so the booking process is a fun one. I got screwed like I always do on books. I did this live and it just went awful for me. You basically just want to max out the A1 and stop. So what happened to me was I maxed out the A2, maxed out the A3, and I think I had like 0 or 1 books on my A1, and I was like, I haven't even gotten any buff chance yet, and I maxed out my A2 and my A3. So I just had to keep going and max him out, because if you're going to be using Vizier a lot, he's worth the books just to make that buff chance that much more reliable. But if you get good RNG and you max this out with 5 or 6 books, go ahead and save the other ones. It's not really worth it to book the other stuff, in my opinion. You're going to be using him as a clan boss specialist, and 99% of his utility is the A1 here. So once you book that, you can totally stop with the rest of it. Then for the masteries, there's a couple different ways to go with this. For a more early to mid-game player, you'd probably be better suited to go offense and support. You definitely want to get Giant Slayer. That's a rock star mastery in the clan boss. But it makes him a little bit easier to build if you scoop up the 10 accuracy and kind of go down the support route. Sniper can really help with that buff chance because remember, it's going to help with extending the A1, and you're going to get a lot of turns of value out of that. So Sniper is very good. If you're not going to book him, if you don't have the books to invest in him and get that A1 maxed out, you probably want to go the offense and support route and make sure you get this Sniper. And then this is a list of the debuffs, basically that he can't extend, the CC ones. Stun, Sleep, Freeze, Fear, True Fear, and Provoke will not be extended by his A1. That's a good spot to get a list of the ones that won't extend. But now let's head into an Ultra Nightmare clan boss fight, and I will talk about the setup and how he works as a champion. So let's go into Ultra. And okay, so when you're using Vizier, the main thing to know is you want to bring champions that have defense down, weaken, and attack down. Those three things are very important to cover because once you get those placed, Vizier can keep extending them and make them permanent. So very important to get those bases covered and then place a bunch of poisons to crank out damage. You can also throw in an HP burn. Remember, you can only get 1 HP burn, so you can't stack a bunch of those like you can with poisons. But if you've got somebody like a Venus or an endgame champion that's very good, totally cool to bring them because HP burn does actually do a little bit more damage than a poison. One thing to keep in mind is if you're going to be using Frozen Banshee is very popular. She brings the poison sensitivity, and if you're bringing poison sensitivity, you probably don't want to use HP burn because once you place the poison sense, you want to get as many poisons as possible to get the value out of that. So you don't really need to feel the pressure to bring an HP burn or anything if you're going to be bringing poison sense because you're going to want to place a bunch of poisons to get that 25% bonus on the poison sensitivity. But yeah, okay, so Draco is my defense down and my weaken so that Vizier can extend those and make it forever. My attack down is actually Martyr, so I'm going to be using her suppression to place the attack down. That's a little bit rough, especially in this context here versus a magic affinity. If she hits weak, she's not going to get a chance to place that until the next cooldown. So sometimes I'll do that ability first to see how it's going and then either restart or something because that's my reliable or my only source of attack down other than Vizier, and I don't want to use his ability to place the attack down. He will do it, but you don't want to use that until later because he'll place like heal reduction, which takes up a poison slot, and block buffs will take up a poison slot. But the block buffs isn't that bad because the clan boss places the he buffs his own attack. So if you place the block buffs, he's not able to do that, and you can maybe live a little bit longer. But yeah, it can get a little bit interesting. But yeah, you just want to cover those bases: weaken, defense down, attack down, and then stack a bunch of the damage dealing debuffs, poison sense, HP burn, and poison. So that's what my bada was for, to stack a bunch of poisons. So let's see how this goes here. And first, we'll go ahead, stack some poisons, and then I'll have my Draco place the defense down and the weaken. And then with Vizier, we basically just want to spam the A1. And then with Martyr, I want to see if she's going to land the decreased attack on the suppression. She hit weak, so she didn't. So what that means is I'm basically just going to do another rotation on my cooldown abilities here until I see if I can get that. But well, I'll show you. I was going to have the Martyr do it, but I'll show you kind of what you can do just by autoing. And you can see when the Vizier does his ability, he will try to place a decreased attack as well. That's the counter attack. But then when we come here and we get to our Vizier right here, so you can use your Vizier for decreased attack, but it's got a lot of RNG and it can be tough to get it to work. So let's go ahead and do it. And bang! So he placed heal reduction and decreased attack. If that were block buffs and decreased attack, that would have definitely been the more optimal route to go. So now we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We are full. So when we get a setup like this, we're completely wasting a slot in dealing damage. So we've got the heal reduction up, and we're getting no value from that at all. So the optimal route is to play a more consistent spot of getting decreased attack on the boss. Ideally, my Martyr would have landed it with suppression, but against Spirit Affinity, it's a little bit rough. I could use somebody like Sepulchre Sentinel, but then I'm sacrificing my double counter attack. So it ends up being better to run this team. It just gets a little bit finicky sometimes, and sometimes you either got to restart or just bite the bullet and accept your key isn't going to be as good as normal. But it's just something to kind of keep in mind when you're using Vizier, as you don't want to fill up those that bar with stuff like heal reduction, because those debuff slots are so important when you've only got 10 of them. But yeah, that's kind of the gist. You just want to get the defense down, the weaken, the attack down, and then you want to start extending a bunch of poisons and HP burn and poison sense if you've got them to bring. So yeah, as always, let me know down in the comments what you think, and if you want that infographic, it is in a pinned comment if you want to go ahead and pull that up. Really no need to go over Vizier's grades in every area of the game, because he's mainly just a clan boss specialist. That's his role. He could be decent in the Fire Knight and in the heal reduction, the keep, where the boss places heal reduction, the spirit keep, but he's a weak affinity, so you can't really count on the heal reduction. But he's all right in the spirit keep and the Fire Knight, and maybe some certain situations, boss fights and faction wars and stuff, because of the decreased attack and stuff. But mainly for 95% of people, he is a clan boss specialist, and you will probably be building him to do so, especially once you get to the end game. So yeah, that'll be down in a pinned comment if you want to pull up the infographic. And as always, thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.